Okay, shooters, day 8 of 14 days to be a better shooter. Today is all about switching hands with the rifle and with the handgun. With the carbine or the rifle, it's really important to switch hands because there's right and left cover in the world, and we want to be able to utilize both equally as well as the other. And the only way you can truly do that is by switching shoulders. If you don't switch shoulders and you try to use cover on the opposite side, in other words, if I'm using right shoulder and I come up to left side cover, I've got to lean my body way out to get a shot off, and I'm exposing too much of my upper body to incoming fire. The way to minimize that is switch shoulders, and it's just like right-handed going against right-handed cover. So we're going to learn how to switch shoulders with the carbine. It's equally as important that you learn how to switch shoulders with the handgun. The main reason for that is in case in case you get injured. If you've shot targets much at all, even just IDPA targets, IPSC targets, when you have somewhat hostage targets or whatever, a lot of the rounds are going to impact where the firearm or the handgun or the ice pick or the knife or whatever is, because that's what our eyes fix on. That's what creates a threat, is if we see them holding something that they can use as a tool against us, we focus on that tool and we shoot. So hand wounds are quite common, so we want to be able to use both hands with the handgun. So let's start with the handgun first. I'm going to point it straight at the camera. I'm going to back up a bit. Okay, what we do is we create the gap. I'm just lifting my thumb up. I'll show you different views of this. Create the gap, fill the gap, switch hands. Create the gap, fill the gap, switch hands. Create the gap, fill the gap, switch hands. Okay, sideways here. Create the gap, fill the gap, switch hands. 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 Okay, do that 20 times. Create the gap, fill the gap, switch hands. Okay, with the carbine, there's two ways to switch shoulders with the carbine. The first way is switch hands, then switch shoulders. The second way is switch shoulders, then switch hands. So we're going to do the switch hands first. Up here, I got a switch hands. Bring my firing hand up here. Bring my left hand up here. Switch shoulders. Push the rifle out. Bring it over. Bring it in. Okay. Switch hands. Left hand goes out. Right hand comes back. Push the gun out so it clears the cheek, the chin. Pull it back in. So, switch hands. Switch shoulders. Switch hands. Switch shoulders. Sideways, from the side here. Switch hands. Switch shoulders. Switch hands. Switch shoulders. Other side. Switch hands. Switch shoulders. Switch hands, switch shoulders. Switch hands, switch shoulders. Switch hands, switch shoulders. Now notice I don't have a lot of head movement. I'm not, ducking way out of the way. I may have a little bit of head movement, but I want as little as possible. I want to push the rifle out and bring it back in so my head's already in a good firing position. Okay? So practice that 20 times. Next way, second way, is switch shoulders and then switch hands. Switch shoulders, switch hands. Switch shoulders, switch hands. Switch shoulders, switch hands. Okay, sideways. Switch shoulders, switch hands. Switch shoulders, switch hands. Switch shoulders, switch hands. Okay, this way. Switch shoulders, switch hands, switch shoulders, switch hands, switch shoulders, switch hands. Okay, the only advantage that one has over the other is that if you switch shoulders first, you're able to maybe get a shot off before you switch hands. Or maybe you may not have to switch hands. This is what I mean by that. I've got right hand on the pistol grip. Switch shoulders, I can still shoot from here. You see that? I can still pull the trigger, I can get it. So, switch shoulders, bang. Switch hands, bang. Practice that 20 times. Okay, shooters, time for the blindfold. Do the handgun first. We're just going to switch hands. Remember, it's create the gap, fill the gap, switch hands. Okay. Let's see, let me make sure I'm lined up with the camera. Okay, I'm just going off memory where the lens is. Create the gap, fill the gap, switch hands. Create the gap, fill the gap, switch hands. This side. Hopefully I'm in the camera. Create the gap, fill the gap, switch hands. 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 Okay, blindfolded. Do that 20 times. Okay, now blindfolded with the carbine. We're going to do it both ways 20 times. Switch hands, switch shoulders. Okay, switch hands, switch shoulders. Switch hands, switch shoulders. Switch hands, switch shoulders. Okay, now 20 times the other way, which is switch shoulders, switch hands. Switch shoulders, switch hands. Switch shoulders, switch hands. Okay, do that 20 times. Okay, shooters, so just do that exercise for day 8, and you'll be pretty proficient at switching hands and switching shoulders. Day 9 is going to be actually dry firing at some reduced size targets that you're going to place in your dry fire area. So we'll see you at day 9. Thanks. Have a good day.